Hi, I'm Gina Marie Rodriguez, and we're here today at the Clark Police Station to discuss the new ordinances surrounding e-bikes. I am very confused about the whole e-bike situation to begin with because I feel like I'm only just hearing about them, which maybe I'm in the minority because people apparently are complaining about what's happening with e-bikes. But
You're not the only one who's confused about it, that's for certain.
I'm actually really glad to hear that. So, can you explain to me though, first of all, like what is the difference between the varying types of e-bikes? Because I know there are different classes. So, treat me like a child. What is an e-bike?
Okay. So, an e-bike is a bike that has an electric helper motor.
Okay.
Some of them have pedals, some of them don't. The easiest way to understand it is to think of them as having three classes. So you have class 1 and class 2. Those don't require a license, they don't require registration, they don't require insurance.
Okay.
Class 1 and 2 e-bikes, they usually have pedals on them, not always, and they don't go faster than 20 miles an hour. So if your child has one of these and it does not go faster than 20 miles an hour, it's a class 1 or a class 2 e-bike. They fall under the same laws as a bicycle. You can ride it without having a license. You don't need a registration on it. You don't need insurance. The motors on these have less than 750 watts, and there should be a sticker on them that says class 1 or class 2.
Okay.
So once you go above that, once you go above the 20 mile an hour threshold, is what's called a class 3 e-bike. Again, that should have a sticker on it, and those can go, if you look at some of the regulations, they say up to 28 miles an hour, but a lot of them can go a lot faster than that.
Wow.
Those essentially are they're the same as a moped or a dirt bike or a motorcycle. You need at least a moped license to ride it. So
Okay.
you need to be at least old enough to get a moped license. You need a registration on it, and you need insurance. So those, if kids are out riding them and they don't have a license, registration, insurance, those are actually subject to impoundment.
Oh,
So if you're out riding them, you can get the same tickets as you would in a motor vehicle for driving an unregistered car or driving an unregistered vehicle, not having insurance, not having a license. Now, where the lines get blurred are some of the bikes are then modified. So people buy a class 2 and then they modify it so it goes faster than that. If that is the case, and we look into it and someone's found on one of these and we determine that they're on the road and it's going 30 miles an hour,
right.
those are going to get treated as a class 3 because that essentially is what the dividing line is how fast they go.
Okay.
Most of the ones that are class 3s don't have pedals on them, but again, you don't want to put a bright line like rule on that because of the
Right.
fact that they're modified. There's new products that come out every week. But if you think of it 20 miles an hour and up, you need a license, registration, insurance. 20 miles an hour and down is a bicycle.
Okay. Wow. There's a lot. I don't have children, so these are not things that I'm looking into at any point. Where are you purchasing? Are they just able to get this at a Walmart and you can have I mean, it sounds dangerous to be putting a child on something that can go over 20 miles an hour. So I know you're saying there's a sticker, but is it possible that parents are accidentally purchasing the higher class bike?
I think that people are not educating themselves about these. I think that they're not reading the fine print when they buy them because you can go on Amazon, you can buy them online,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of different models. There's a lot of different information out there because there's they're sold all over the world.
Right.
So they might call it one. They may use one type of terminology to refer to it,
Right.
which is different than what New Jersey refers to it, so people get confused by that. But if they can keep that in mind, and when they look at the electric motor, if it's less than 750 watts, it should be it's a class 1 or a class 2. If it's more, it's a class 3, and the 20 miles an hour. So if you use those parameters when parents research this, they can determine what it is. And again, they all need to have a sticker on them that says what type it is.
Right.
So they should keep that in mind. They should read before they buy these things. But I don't think a lot of people are reading them.
Yeah.
From what I hear, I haven't been out there doing the enforcement, but from what I hear from our patrol officers, they say parents claim that they don't know.
Right.
They bought it as a Christmas gift. Everybody else has them is something that we hear.
Right.
And I get it, everybody else has them, but they can be very dangerous.
Yeah.
Kids do very dangerous things on them. see them all over town.
Yeah.
We've impounded numerous ones
Oh my
this
gosh.
year, and we just want to make sure that we do all we can to prevent a tragedy before it happens.
Now, forgive me for not knowing what impound necessarily means. So they're not able to get those bikes back at any point, or
So, in order for you to get it out of impoundment, essentially you would need to have a licensed driver there. You would have to have it registered, and you would have to get insurance for it.
okay,
Once we impound it, we cannot release it to you legally if it does not have insurance on it.
okay,
There is a provision where it could be released as it's called tow only, where you're not allowed, you have to provide a notarized letter saying that you were taking it back to your house, that it's not registered, that we're not going to ride it or use it until you get registration on it. And then something like that, essentially you could put it in the trunk of your car, but you would have to give us some type of documentation that you were not going to ride it or allow anybody to use it until you meet
yeah.
the registration requirement.
Wow. I'm really fascinated by this whole conversation because, I mean, even bicyclists, this is my own personal fear of being on a bike, I guess, but it worries me when bicyclists don't necessarily require for the class one, class two, or I don't even know what a regular bike is called. Is there a class for a regular bike? That
No, so
doesn't need-
a regular bike is a pedicycle, and essentially class 1, class 2, and pedicycles are the same.
Okay.
You should think of those as bicycles. It's class 3s when you start to think of it as more of a motor vehicle.
Okay. Because even for me, I worry about the class one, class two, and the pedicycle because you still should know the rules of the road. And when you don't necessarily have a license, you aren't able to follow the same rules that your drivers are following. And I'm always worried when I'm driving along with a bicyclist right next to me. I I have a severe phobia of like hurting someone, so I can only imagine that if someone doesn't know what they're doing, that the accidents that may happen. But I would love to hear you expand on like what have we seen? What kind of safety concerns are at hand?
So here's, as a parent, this is my safety concern because you hit the nail right on the head there when you said that, you know, kids that are riding these, they don't have an understanding of the rules of the road.
Right.
So a bicycle, most kids are not going to get a bicycle up to 20 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to happen. But these, with the electric motor, they are going to get to 20 miles an hour. It's designed to do that.
Yeah.
And when you put that in the hands of, even though it's legal, even though, up to 20 miles an hour, they don't need a license for it. You put that in the hands of it. We've seen kids 9, 10, 12 years old riding these, and they're riding them on the roadway. You have to think to yourself, would I give my 12-year-old
Yeah.
the keys to what is essentially
Right.
a motorcycle?
Yeah.
I get it. Even at 20 miles an hour, you don't need a license to ride it. Doesn't mean that it's a good idea.
Right.
And we have seen, very young kids riding these. I think it's an area where the law has not caught up with it. But hopefully eventually it does, where, there is an age requirement that these real young kids are not out there riding this quote unquote
Right.
bicycle and not having any knowledge of the rules of the road. Because that's what we see. They're riding against traffic with them. They're not following the right-of-way rules because they don't understand them. And I think you touched on that too. They're expecting people to see them, and they're really not
Yeah.
visible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's difficult. It feels morbid to ask, but I do want to understand what the possibilities are of injury to whether they're causing injuries to drivers who may end up in an accident and the possible injuries to the bicyclists as well, because I think parents do need to be concerned with worst case scenarios, as uncomfortable as it is to talk about.
No, well, there was already a case down in, I believe it was either Ocean or Cape May County, where was a teenager, I want to say 13 or 14, was killed riding one of the e-bikes. We have had, in the last 4 or 5 years, multiple accidents with people on regular bicycles. Not children. I'm talking about adults who are riding a regular bicycle,
Right.
who were severely injured riding the regular bicycle on the roadway just because of the heavy traffic that's on the roads in Clark. they're difficult to see. People driving cars a lot of times will not yield the right of way to them, not because they didn't want to yield the right of way to them, but just simply because they didn't see them. And in some of these accidents, the people were following the rule. In most of the bicycle accidents, the bicyclist was following the rules of the road, right? And a lot of the e-bike operation, what we see is the kids aren't following the rules of the road. So unfortunately, my feeling is that it's a matter of time before it happens that someone is injured on one of them. Nobody wants to see that happen. But as a parent, personally, I would not put my child on one, ever.
I completely understand that, but you said that we're seeing a lot of it right now, or we're seeing it in the Clark Commons.
Yes.
So can you talk about what's happening there and the new ordinances that have been enacted?
Sure. So we enacted an ordinance that is more restrictive than the state law. So state law says that you need to be, and once you are 17 years of age, you don't have to wear a helmet when you ride an e-bike. Our township ordinance says that no matter what your age is, if you're within the township of Clark, you have to have a helmet on.
Yeah.
Idea being that if you're wearing a helmet, you're less likely to be injured.
Of course.
What we did in the ordinances is we looked at places that kids come and congregate on e-bikes. And the one that we saw is Clark Commons was the main one. And we have had a lot of complaints over the last couple of years of kids in there riding in a dangerous way, not just e-bikes, but also bicycles. It's gotten worse this year where we see kids taunting the police to try to get them to chase them, knowing that we're not allowed to chase them.
Wow.
And we restricted, with the help of the developer and the owner of the property, they were on board with it. So we have an agreement with them where we can enforce Title 39 on their property. We also have it written to the ordinance that those e-bikes and scooters are not allowed on the property. So you can ride your e-bike or your scooter there, say you work there and you need it as a mode of transportation, because there's plenty of adults who use them in a very safe manner and they ride to work on them. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. They need to wear a helmet once they cross the borders into Clark, but there's nothing wrong with them riding their e-bikes there. As soon as they get to the sidewalk outside the commons, they can hop off and they can walk it into wherever they work. Same thing. If your kids have these and they ride up there, they can go to Crumble, they can go to Applebee's. They just can't ride the e-bikes on the property there. And we've had several operations out there where we bring our juvenile bureau in, our detective bureau in, our patrol bureau in, and we go out there and we specifically try to get the word out through education and through enforcement. And what we did with the ordinance is that we incorporated a mandatory court appearance into the ordinance. Idea being behind it is that people are more likely to listen if they know that there is going to be a consequence for their actions.
Right.
We don't want to see juveniles and kids in our court.
Of course.
What we want people to see is the ordinance and to make a decision about what they're going to do or not going to do based on the ordinance and to follow it. So we're hoping that people are more likely to follow the ordinance if they know that if they get caught, they're going to wind up in front of Judge Ignacio.
Right. Well, like you said earlier, sometimes the law isn't necessarily caught up with society, right? So
all the time. Yeah.
It's unfortunate that precedents often need to be set first, and we don't want to see someone injured before the law is changed. So I do hope that these new ordinances will get people listening, get people interested in researching more, because I certainly didn't know, like I said, I didn't know anything about the e-bikes before this conversation. So I hope that people will do their research, especially if you do have children or if you're interested in riding a bike. But you were saying you had made the speak English. You had made the comparison between bicyclists and the motorcyclists at a certain class level. And I'm shocked that only Clark is requesting helmets, because I would have thought that the entire state would demand wear a helmet. Guys, like I learned that in first grade. You should be wearing a helmet if you're on a regular bike.
We're hoping that catches up. One thing that I have, you hear the chatter, around town and on social media, and I've seen people say that the ordinance is a money grab, and it's overstepping, and it's the town trying to just bring cash in, and that's 100% could not be further from the truth.
Sure.
The idea behind the ordinance is that we want to prevent somebody from getting hurt. The last thing here at the police department, at the township administrative level, that anybody wants to see is someone's child to get hurt on one of these. The people who wrote this ordinance, who enacted it, the majority of us have kids and understand that that is something that nobody wants to see.
Right.
Nobody wants that to happen. No one cares about the money. No one's trying to be mean and wants to put your kid in front of Judge Inacio. It's just the only way to get people's attention is to have an ordinance that has some type of consequence to it.
Absolutely.
And that's the reason why it was enacted, and not for all those other reasons that I've seen out there.
Right. I mean, the intention is prevention. I think that's
Exactly.
a good way to look at it. But I do understand, as someone who is not in law enforcement, who does not work in the court system, it's really easy for us to jump to, it's all about the money.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's something that's easier to cope with, I guess, because I don't want to think about all the negative stuff that you've just mentioned. I don't want to think about the possibility that my kid might get hurt. It's way easier to say, well, the cops just want my money. It's a ticket and that's all it is. But thank you for expanding on that and explaining why we're just trying to save lives,
That's it.
essentially.
That is it. That's all it's about, is making sure that everybody's safe.
Gosh, there's a lot to consider here, and I do hope that people will do their research after this. But is there anything that I didn't bring up that you think is important to discuss today?
So just a couple other things about the ordinance that people should understand is that it also limits the use of e-bikes and scooters on any township property that is owned or maintained by Clark Township or the Board of Education. So that's any school, Curry Field, the Pit, Picton Park, Peter Navardic Memorial Park, Bartell Park, and the Town Hall complex. So the signs are in the process of being installed.
Okay.
They're up at most of the locations. We're working to get them installed at the ones that they're not. But people should understand that if it's owned by the Township of Clark, you can't have e-bikes on it. The other part of this that people should understand is that it also includes, that ordinance includes motorized scooters. So the little scooters without pedals that have the flat board on the bottom. E-bike, it's considered a low-speed e-bike in the ordinance.
Right.
They're also, if you bought your kids that, they can't be on those properties riding those. And the ordinance also bans pocket bikes. And pocket bike is the little gas-powered one that looks like a motorcycle.
Oh, okay.
Okay, those can't be ridden on sidewalks in the township. So you can't ride them on the street. You can't ride them on sidewalks. They're for use on private property.
Yeah.
Only.
Okay. And where can people find, is there one place where all of this is listed for people to find?
So the ordinance you can find if you go to the Clark Township website.
Okay.
And if you navigate to the E-code, and it's under 347-65.
Okay.
It's also under the new law section, which is on the top left-hand corner. In terms of the state laws, that's something that, is in Title 39. It's very difficult to read through Title 39 and to really understand it because there's different things that are in different chapters, and then it refers to a lot of legal type language. So if people are looking for general information on that, it's good if you type it into Google and find usually there's a lot of bicyclist type websites out there that will summarize it for you. But I just looked it up before I came in here just to see what was out there. And there's definitely, if you type in New Jersey e-bike laws, it's going to give you good information on it. You just got to find a reputable website to kind of parse it down for you. Because if you try and read in Title 39, it'll take you all day.
Yeah, and I think I had been sent as well, there was an infographic with the different classes of bikes and the different
I'll put that up on
regulations.
our Facebook too.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can find it on the Clark Police's Facebook. I
Absolutely.
think
And our
that's
detectives
helpful.
are going to be in schools on back to school night to
Good.
speak with the parents.
Good. I think that's wonderful. There's
Yeah.
there's a lot of information. It's very easy to be overwhelmed. So I'm grateful that we're having this talk and that social media is a boon, right? So
Yeah.
put everything on there and
Absolutely.
hopefully people will be making adjustments very
Yeah.
soon.
Hopefully the word gets out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you for the chat. I appreciate
No
it.
problem.